because there's so much I learned from how people treated me and how I needed to treat people to move around. And some of the people I started with are the people who've worked on my film and stuff like that. And that goes back to building your team, right? And I think with shorts, okay, so maybe you made a short that's really bad, but you met a couple people on that set that you didn't like, you're never going to work with again. But there's one guy who was like the second AC, and he was just super nice and was never complained about having to use the clipboard. And that guy, for all you know, is part of that crew that can help you. Man, if I knew then what I knew now. But that's also why you make your first film. That's why you make your shorts. Yeah. That's why you make your first feature.
Yeah.
It's making mistakes in front of the world who you don't know, who have a right to criticize you. And that's part of the business we're in. And we accept that factor when we upload that video. That's what I kind of find interesting about it too. I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, I know my next film is going to be all the people who have problems with the first film. I respect that. I like it, because wait till my next film, because I'm learning from that too. And I'm taking that into that. And one of those things is the marketing aspect of it.
Hello, Chris here with another episode of the Make It Podcast. And this is an Indie Talk week. And that means I have my good friend and co-founder with me, Nicholas Buggs, and our amazing and esteemed special guest, Todd Bogin. Nick, Todd, say hello.
Hello.
He's got to figure out who's going to go first, right? I was like, let Todd go.
I'm the guest. I shouldn't cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I was waiting. You didn't cut me off, because this happened the last time. Like Chris, I think this is like a test. It's like a game that we got going on. I was like, who's going to say hello first? So I gave that one to you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you continue to fail the test, Nick. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I am saying your name first.
I know you are.
It is implied that you start.
I am a gentleman. So, it is just in my nature to defer to others. So I had to do it.
That is true about you. You're the kind of guy, if I say my name is Chris Barkley, you'll call me Barkley Chris. You'll just switch. You'll just switch it up on me, because you want to be polite to the first name. Yo, speaking of names, by the way. Speaking of names, and I'd love, Todd, if you jumped in on this a little bit, if you'd like. I was talking today about the power of names, and I realized that I had created 3 or 4 or 5 like alter egos for myself. And I really didn't think about why I had done that, except for the fact that I'm protecting my real self, and my real self is insecure and afraid. And even though I'm 6'3", 240 pounds right now, when I grew up, I was 5'5", 100-something pounds. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was pushed around a lot. No, in 9th grade, I was really 5'5". I got so lucky. I grew so much. But by the time you're 14 or 15 or 16 years old, a lot of who you are is already baked in. So I'm this big guy that grew up having to defend and protect myself all the time. And so I was thinking about the fact that, okay, this is what pseudonyms are about. Like, when I go and sing, I like to be Chris Dante. Like, when I was musicianship, when I'm on here with you and we do stuff in film, we always call ourselves Bonsai Chris and Nick. Like, you actually have done this too. And Bonsai Chris and Bonsai Nick can do things that Nick Buggs and Chris Barkley can't do. They have other superpowers. When I play basketball, I have this moniker. It sounds ridiculous, but I call myself El Caballo Obscuro. And sometimes I'll say El Caballo Negro, which is the black horse or the dark horse.
You wear a mask, bro? You got a little...
I wish I could wear a Zorro mask. I wish I could wear a Zorro mask. I would totally do it. It's like, well, that person can do stuff on the basketball court that Chris can't do, because Chris is a dad, and Chris is a son and a brother, and a friend. He's a businessman. He's, a filmmaker. But on the basketball court, I can be a killer. You see what I mean? I don't have to be that talk shit. I can get in a fist fight, because that's not me. And then I was thinking about all the other people who do it, like Eminem, or how Michael Jordan took everything personally on purpose so he could be on death ground. I don't know. What do you guys do this? Am I alone in this?
No, I think sometimes it's like a creative thing to essentially give the insecurities in you like a free pass to go for it. Creativity is on the basketball court too, in my opinion, because I think if you're being Chris Barkley and you're like, I can't make this jump shot, let's say, you know, you're the dark horse and you come in and you let go of that fear possibility that's in you, because it's not you, it's your superhero self. And I think that happens. I think that's some reason why some people are very attracted to acting even and creating characters through film, because they're able to express some of their insecurities through another name or through another situation, possibly. I feel like I could change my name and I still couldn't hit a jump shot, but I tried.
But you do make a good point. Yeah. It's like Chris would miss that jump shot and you know, ECO would hit it.
ECO,
but go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
So for me, I was going to say that it's a little bit difficult to come up with pseudonyms because, you know, for me, I'm so tied to my name, right? And I think I've mentioned this on this podcast before because, you know, my name is Nicholas, which means victory of the people. Right. So for me, I believe it in my heart that that's what I'm supposed to be. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's, you know, so I coach, you know, youth soccer teams, and every one of my teams is called Victory, right? It's this kind of part of who I am. So that kind of cascades into everything. Yeah, Bonsai Nick might be a thing, but it's still Nick, right? It's still.
Do you still have Apollo
Nicholas
as a thing?
In some circles, I have that as a thing. It hangs. Did
I say what wasn't to be said?
Yeah, no, it's but it's one of those things. And I'll just say for Todd, you know, because he's like, "What the heck are you talking about?" Yeah, that was I guess you could call it a nickname at the time, but for you know, when I pledged a fraternity back in the days, then yeah, that is what I had on my jacket. You know, so it was Apollo. Because again, you know, Apollo as a god, you know, I mean, he was just like, of all things beautiful and romantic and artistic. And, you know, if I consider myself at all a Renaissance man, then that would have been one of the Greek gods that, you know, I would have admired. So yeah, Apollo, Once Upon a Dream.
And what's my middle name?
How you connect with those. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. My middle name is Adonis, by the way. So God of love. But here's the thing, Todd, because I jumped on you. I'm gonna let you go. No, I just want to say this. You got so lucky with that, Nick, because, you know, victory of the people, Nicholas, Apollo's this Greek god. My name means Christ. But when you say that to people, they really want to punch your face.
Yes. But when you tell people how you got the name, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm named after Christopher Reeve. Is it Reeve or Reeves? Christopher Reeves, Superman.
Superman.
And people don't know this unless you're of a certain age or a certain level of research you might have done on him for whatever reason. But before he was Superman, he was in soaps. And my mom thought he was sexy in soaps.
Dove or Dial? Is that what you mean by the soaps? I wasn't.
The soap opera is the hardest working actors in industry.
There you go.
Right? No offense to anybody, but I mean what they have to do. And Todd, maybe you get this right. Like what they have to do every single day to shoot a soap, the number of scripts they get, and they're just like pumping these things out.
It's amazing that they pump them out. I mean, I respect whoever writes those shows too. I mean, that can't be easy as well. It's like, right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, I wonder if they do what Disney does and just recycle the scripts over and over, just with new characters and new context. Because there's no way they're coming up with this many storylines.
Sell them to other soaps. Just sell them to other soaps. Like, we can't use this. Take it.
Yeah, and I don't fully believe AI is going to take over like movies. I think it's a good assistant tool, but if there was something to take over AI, I fear it could be some of the soap stuff, because I do think they regurgitate some of it. But
they have
if I had to write an hour of TV a day, I'd do the same.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's got to be like a black market, like a dark market exchange where the soaps exchange your scripts, Nick, like you were saying. Maybe that's what happens. But listen, all that aside, and we can talk more about this later, there's some deep psychology in there. Obviously, I need to talk to a psychotherapist. But before we get too far, let's introduce the audience to our esteemed guest, Todd Bogin. Todd, tell everybody who you are, title, recent projects, what you're up to now.
Yeah, I wish I had a cool alter ego name to tell everyone right now. But my name's Todd Bogin. I'm born in Chicago. I've lived in New York for a good portion of my life. I just released my debut feature that I wrote and directed and like fundraised for and sold to our wonderful sales agent, The Coven. Released in May in the US on Tubi. Watch it now. And coming out internationally, a bunch of territories, including like Germany, UK, and some more coming out this fall. And I have a bunch of shorts. Maybe someone saw it out there. I don't know if they saw any of my shorts. I saw a bunch that I hope people didn't see. And I have one or two that I hope they saw maybe parts of. And then,
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you have a lot to be proud of. And we're definitely going to talk about your feature film, Hidden Exposure. I mean, your cast is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Bianca Liberato, Richard Kind, just to name a few, Rumer Willis. But your short film, Modulation Nowhere, I found out was playing on Mubi. Yeah. And to give people a sense of what Mubi is, it's the high-end Tubi in a lot of ways. It's taking the other market approach. Not to say that the movies on Mubi are better than the ones on Tubi. I'm simply saying that their market approach, since we are marketers and producers, I noticed that they're taking a different tack. They're going like the cinemaphile tact, almost like we see with Letterboxd, for example, where they're just for people who are obsessed with films, and Metacritic's for a different type of viewer, right? I think Tubi's saying, let's take a broad net, let's get everybody to watch, and then that works for their model because it's an ad-based model, right? So, but I saw your film on there. I was like, holy moly, they curate the crap out of their movies. So if Todd's short made it there, then it's got to be great. And then sure enough, you look at it, it's shot, it's beautifully done. 8.4 rating on IMDb, which we might get into ratings and how those are manipulated across industry a little bit here. But congratulations on that. I guess my first question is, of course, you said you had some shorts you hope people don't get to see, and then you have some like Modulation Nowhere that you hope people do get to see. What goes wrong, or what is the delineation point for you on set or in the pre-production process that leads one short down the path of being not so great and one towards the path of being distributed like Modulation Nowhere was?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I think it works with everything. With screenwriting, I mean, how many screenwriters out there have a script that they thought was great, and then it's in their drawer still, or, on their theoretical FTX cloud? I still don't quite know. Like, a lot of it is like a feeling, right? Like, okay, I'm proud of this. This worked. With me, I didn't go to film school. So I started like as a production assistant. And so my first shorts was like my film school. It was like taking out friends or equipment from the companies I was working with that were nice enough to loan it to me. And just, you're shooting your first few. I didn't go to film school. I've watched movies my whole life. I read every single book. But when you're on set, and at that point, you're not working with very experienced cinematographers. So you're on set and everyone's figuring out what's going on. What kind of shot are we doing here? So you get back into the editing room and you're just like, poorly lit, completely wrong shot, didn't get the reactions, didn't get any insert shots so the editor can hide some of this stuff. And a lot of it with me was style. I knew in my mind a certain style that comes out of me when I hit like what I think is the best I can do. To this point, I feel like I'm only getting better creatively. And I can't quite explain it, but I know it when I see it. So a lot of my early shorts was incredibly emulating my influences, which is amazing, because without those, I would have never considered making film. So a lot of it has to do with that. A lot of it has to do with stuff as simple as like the audio is really bad in this movie. We shot this on like an old Canon, and we color graded it poorly and lit it poorly. I can't, you can only make so many excuses, right? You can't go watch this, but the sound's bad. Put on subtitles. I swear it's good.
Right.
So, a lot of that's that.
I've not heard that before. That's pretty good.
I've been there. I was there. Not that, when I was making though, that's what I was doing.
That's a great way to cover up for bad sound, though. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Hey, watch it, but it's MOS. It's Charlie Chaplin.
It's MOS.
So turn on the subtitles. That's great.
We're just gonna play a song that sometimes you listen to a short and there's like a Rolling Stones song, whatever. It would be like $1 million to license. I'm just like, hope that doesn't go too far in the festivals.
Right.
No, but
producer Elise, write that down. We're going to use that as an excuse later.
You can bleep that out. Yeah. So with me, I was PAing. I was on all kinds of sets. I had so many people who were so nice to me, like directors who I was talking to one of my buddies today, an actor friend of mine who was in the guy who played Jimmy Alvarez, who played the barista in Hidden Exposure. Yep. He's on a bunch of stuff. One of my best buddies. We were talking a little bit about that, and it's just funny that came up. Like starting and learning on set and talking to directors, talking to producers when I'm a PA. What are you doing? Many times I'm like, I can't believe people didn't yell at me. I should have been getting coffee. And I'm sitting there asking the director why he used a 50 millimeter lens on a diamond necklace commercial, on a certain shot. And I got lucky. I had people really support me, maybe because I was asking too many questions and they wanted me to go away. And I just started making a lot on my own. I was in high school. I made stuff by myself as well. And then, I think once I started realizing like, this isn't terrible. And Modulation Nowhere was really like, I still am kind of shocked. I made that in Berlin. I was living in Berlin for like a year. And I used some equipment I had for free. We shot it on a Canon C300.
Okay.
It was like a $4,000 budget.
Yep.
It was great camera. It totally did its job. Wrote the script. I still think I'm like script writing is not easy. So it's like, that's another aspect of it. Having to direct, having to write. And honestly, writing came and still is the hardest for me. The threads of writing. And it was just that came out better than I thought. And I think a lot of that had to do with, we shot it in like 3 days. It was like a $4,000 budget, working with a German crew. The actors were so prepared and worked so hard on that. They took it so serious. My friend Josh Henderson, who lives right by me in Manhattan, he played in a band I played in called Webley, a brilliant composer, violinist, did the score. And it was just one of those weird things that like, when it was done, I was like, that's not terrible, right? And then my friends were like, that's not terrible, even though your other stuff is terrible. So maybe you just got lucky.
I love it. Even though your other stuff is crap, like this works.
Yeah, you're right.
That's that's the kind of feedback real friends give you, by the way.
That's right.
No, for real. And the one thing is like, and you're trying to find your voice, right? Like interesting going back to like the pseudonyms or the names. It's like a part of that name is like finding a different aspect of your voice that maybe like you as yourself is not quite aware of how to project without being insecure. We all know as creators, it's like putting anything out there. Talk about Letterboxd. I have multiple people who have written, terrible stuff about my work on Letterboxd. I have people who've written really good stuff. So that's going to happen no matter what, right? So it's you can do that under the pseudonym or you can do it under your own name. There's no way of avoiding it really. But yeah, and Modulation Nowhere just, I can watch it now and see many mistakes. We made it for barely anything. You can see some production in some shots. Some of the audio is a little messed. There's a reflection of, I think you can see my hand while I'm like watching a tracking shot. I don't want to review the movie, but I will say that there's aspects of it that shows off a style I was going for, which is like just taking people in really tough situations and how they deal with them. I think a lot of times in movies, we expect the right decision from the characters. And I don't think that's how life works out all the time. I think we're putting really tough decisions and that works. So my decision with Modulation Nowhere was, this is at least as close as I've ever been. I might as well see what people think. And I got so lucky. A company licensed it out, and they like paid me money for it. So I was able to put money back towards what I invested. It was my own money that I invested, which barely happens on shorts. I'm sure you guys talk to people when they're making shorts and you have to let them know, like, it's very hard to recoup.
Yep.
Yeah. And they put it on TV, like in like all these different countries and shorts TV and all these different countries and online. And that actually is what led to funding for Hidden Exposure, which up until like a week before it came out was actually called Left with Only Rain.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to ask you about that. But I want to take you back before you get into Hidden Exposure. I want to talk about the film that you made. So let's talk about Modulation Nowhere. So you had these people, right? Who are in your film, who supported your film. Where do these people come from, man? Like that's part of this process, right? It's like all of a sudden you had a crew, you had cast. I mean, what do you do? Wiggle your nose and they just showed up like
a little bit.
How'd you get them?
So
okay.
I worked as a videographer and editor while I was living in Berlin, and I was a part of some cool productions. So I met some great people. A lot of it was actors. You can get a good actor, and they were interested in the script. So I had met those two actors and I like pretty much begged them to do it, and they did. And these were like the most prepared people. Like it was just, that was like a gift. Like you get lucky down the line, right? Especially on that. It was not a big crew. There was a cinematographer. He essentially had one AC who was also like the grip. Then they had an assistant who essentially would like help with some of the lighting. That was literally the camera crew. So I don't know if this is getting too technical, but I storyboarded the entire film with Josh's temp score, all in violin, on my iPhone at the time. So I went to all these locations, and some of them were with the actual final actors. I have some footage somewhere, and because I edit, and I edited it together with his temp score, and I was able to chat with the cinematographer George Steffens about it and show him it, and he was able to build off that and make it better. So I don't know. I feel like I just got lucky. It was a very small crew, but people are interested in people making stuff, right?
Yeah. Can you talk about that storyboarding real quick? So you said you used your iPhone. Yeah. So you were on locations and you had the actors there. So were you basically taking pictures of where they would be in that space and then annotating those as your storyboard? And then you put all of that with the track. How'd you do that?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Sometimes it would just be like they weren't in every location. So sometimes I'll draw a stick figure. Like I like going on like Pinterest and like copying and pasting an image into Photoshop or into InDesign. So yeah, I've been doing that. Like that's actually what I did. Like for my next few projects, I'm like obsessed with Pinterest and copy and pasting into InDesign and messing. But I was starting to do that a little bit. So it was half and half. Some of it was that. Some of it was like my friend who's not an actor. I'm like, can you just walk and block? I was figuring out my blocking and stuff. Like that scene, there's a scene in the bar that's like a long take, which I look at now and it was clearly like, I'm a short filmmaker trying to show that I can do a long take. I don't, can I actually break down that needed to be a long take? 4 years later, I don't know, to be honest with you, but I'm happy I did it because I needed that out of my system. Part of it was that we're all watching, we're voyeuring into one people's world because it goes through people talking and stuff and all that. So yeah, I had that completely storyboarded out. I had the intro scene where that graffiti wall was. The one thing that wasn't storyboarded was the ending that changed in the edit just because of, it just came up while we were editing that this would make a stronger ending. But yeah, that's what I did. I did pop it in Premiere. Back to the subtitles thing, like you can write your own subtitles. Like in this scene, Christian Harding, the lead actor from Modulation Nowhere, amazing human being and actor. You'd be like, Christian walks up to the camera and we're going to do just like a medium shot on his face while he looks over. I would do stuff like that on the footage and try to keep it with the script. And then, I'm again going back to being lucky. Josh has been one of my friends. Josh Henderson, the musician, has been one of my friends for 15 years. So I don't know how many people would have just sent their friend a ton of demos to work with for that editing purpose that I can also show to the actors and the editor and the crew. I would play the score on set so people knew the vibe we were going for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was just a lot of that. And what I learned through Modulation Nowhere, I guess, and obviously getting into the features, it's everything times 100, is it's very important as a director. You necessarily don't have to be I don't think you have to be technically the most creative person on set or even the most talented person on set. You have to be able to guide your creative teams on what you want and the world you're building. So going back to that with Modulation Nowhere, I feel like what helped with that, with no budget, getting people involved, was I had all these storyboards, the video storyboards I had from Pinterest, like mood boards, and I had a score. And I had the mood down. And then I got very lucky with the people who came on me. You're talking a 3-person camera and lighting crew.
Yeah, but you were prepared for that luck, though. Like that's the part that I like about this. Is like you didn't just get lucky. I think that's what a lot of people will say. Like, oh, he got lucky. It's like, well, he was prepared for that. And I think part of that preparation was you were living that life, right? Even with the music, right? You were living the life of a musician at a point. So you had friends who were musicians. You were, you were doing your PA stuff. You were, working with the video editing. Like there's people around you that you could call upon to help you with these things. So yeah, there's a little bit of luck in there, but I think a lot of that is you were building strong relationships with other artists, and that all those artists came together to help another artist, which is you.
I'd replace the word lucky with resourceful.
Yeah.
And what allowed you to be resourceful is that you were already 2 feet in. This is what you were trying to do.
Yeah, my mom says that all the time too, which I think is also important. Like, I think sometimes people lose back to that. So like, I actually really enjoyed, I haven't PA'd in many years now, but I think about it more than almost like producing or like associate producing, just because there's so much I learned from how people treated me and how I needed to treat people to move around. And some of the people I started with are the people who've worked on my film and stuff like that. And that goes back to building your team, right? And I think with shorts, okay, so maybe you made a short that's really bad, but you met a couple people on that set that you didn't like, you're never going to work with again. But there's one guy who was like the second AC, and he was just super nice and was never complained about having to use the clipboard. And that guy, for all you know, is part of that crew that can help you when you show them a photo from Pinterest. We'll get into hidden exposure later, but I can talk about Barbie Long, my cinematographer, to the cows come home, about how collaborative she is by just showing her an image on Pinterest, creating scenes off that, like stuff like that. So you slowly start to build that. And yeah, I agree. It's a part of it's being in it, which is one reason why, although many times I wish I could have gone to film school and maybe I could have started earlier in life, or I could have had more, maybe not fouled in front of people so much in terms of some shorts, which is, I wish I had a different name for that. I appreciate that I approached it from a different angle where I had to be maybe more resourceful. But I don't know. I cannot express how much I love it all. Even just talking about it now, I'm just like,
you can feel the excitement, dude. It's palpable, But I think that, for this audience, and you even mentioned it as a listener of this podcast, right? Like, we try to get these details out to share with people because there are other people who are, in parallel universes living the same life, right? They're all trying to make something, whether it's a short, a feature, a music video, whatever it is. And I think all these lessons that we pick up from each other is, one of the main reasons as to why we do this podcast, to begin with. So one of the other lessons that I would love to kind of learn from is, so you said you got lucky again, right? And someone picked the film up. I mean, how'd they just pick the film up, man? Like, how'd that happen? How'd that work out?
So one of the things too that I'll get into, I know I can ramble a bit, but one of the things is people come to me a lot, like younger filmmakers, people's trying to, younger or older, doesn't matter, but trying to get their first short done or feature, which is amazing. I love to try to help as much as I can. The biggest thing I try to tell people outside of the creativity is you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be a businessman. I don't really know, like I barely understand how the stock market works. I don't know this stuff full on, but I know intuitively that like no one's going to come and do this work for me. So with Modulation Nowhere, I didn't have a sales agent. What I did was I started applying to a bunch of festivals, and I would get into like, it didn't matter what I would get into. I can get into like a festival that my brother put on, and that they didn't even screen, whatever. Like Seth Bogin awards his brother Film of the Year festival, whatever it was. And I would literally like post it and pretend that this was the greatest thing ever to exist.
Yep.
That's crazy. And I realize it's crazy. And I realize that it's like, okay, but it also did something to me mentally. It like made me start to believe in it a little bit. And I started getting good responses. So we got into a good amount of festivals. It was cool. We didn't get into any of the major ones, but one day, and what ended up happening was I just started researching sales and distribution. You guys know that 100 times better than me. But it was then when I realized it's really hard to make money off shorts.
Yep.
So essentially what happened was, because of the buzz and stuff like that, and it was $4,000 budget, I paid for it with my own money. At the time, that was almost everything I had in my bank account. I would have been fine if I didn't get it back, though. I wasn't going to be homeless or anything like that. But I started researching some shorts and seeing which ones people were talking about. Okay, so I knew I wasn't going to win Sundance. I knew I wasn't going to get into Venice or whatever it was. And I noticed there was a couple companies that were distributing them. So I just started, again, going back to InDesign, building decks and packages, trailers, having an editing background. And the editor who edited with me, Hernan Bernos of Modulation Nowhere, we co-edited a trailer together. I just started sending it out, and then a company called Shorts TV licensed it, and that's how that got there, essentially.
That's awesome.
I had no idea how distribution worked or how the industry worked when that happened. I would love to be like, oh, I expertly tailored this and packaged this. I have no idea. I just knew that, again, if I could have put on an alter ego, I got so many emails that's just like, this movie sucks, or like, who are you again? You're nobody. Whatever it was, you're getting denied 100 times out of every one, and I still do. I don't know what the lesson is there, other than like maybe just be prepared to be denied and be okay with that, and
also just be prepared to grind, and like you said, be an entrepreneur.
Grind.
You have to be a little crazy to get into film, right? Like, like that's part of it. Like what I love to say, if ever there's a morale issue, is, hey, like to the whole cast and crew, like we're making a movie.
You get to do this.
To make a movie. This is like an awesome thing. Don't ever forget that we're getting to make, a movie. And before you think just like promoting yourself and self-promotion seems crazy, just look at the world we're surrounded with. Like I read this today. If you go and order YouTube TV, which is their paid for sort of TV service, you do this all via the web. They have 55 different upsells on the screen, and they're just elegant about it. They're really elegant about where they put them. And when you're scrolling, there's 55 of them. There's 55 chances to spend more money with YouTube on one really long scroll page. So if Google can do it, Todd can do it. Nick can do it. Chris can do it. So, but all that information, there's so much to dig into, because I mean, probably more than we even have time for. I think about the way that you were putting your board together, and it's like, shoot, man, when we're making short films, maybe like just drawing them is enough. And you made it seem like, well, I only use my phone and Pinterest. It's like, that's better than, sometimes we'll just draw the squares and say, this is the intent. And you sit down and you just talk about the intent and where the person should be with, even if it's just stick figures. And so as long as everybody around you creatively is into it, you can communicate that. But I love this idea of world building that you described. And I think what's so difficult is you don't know as a filmmaker sometimes who you are well enough to build a world, right? Like you don't have a POV that's polished and developed yet. You don't have a place you're looking at where that allows you to kind of build up that world. And so when you get on set and you've built that world out, you're trying to build the world, it can be a little, discombobulated, and it may not feel very linear, it may not feel very whole. And so the cool thing with you is know thyself is so powerful. You knew, this is what I want this to look like. This is the world. This is the mood. This is the tone, even enough to be able to play the score on set. I just want you to know that is unusual. Like that is different, especially when you're just starting and you're coming up from the PA role and you want to make a film. A lot of times you're writing about something you're interested in, but you don't know a lot about, frankly. Like you're not deep. A lot of times, and people underestimate that, frankly. They think that because they're interested in it, they know a lot about it. That's not right. So when you write the screenplay, it doesn't ring true because you really don't know what the hell you're talking about. You just kind of are interested in that world. And so to know what you're writing about, to know the world, that's huge. So yeah, kudos.
No, that's actually amazing to think about. It's funny because it's like, possibly because I didn't go to film school, I came up as a PA, I started producing, I video edited a lot. It's like going back to that, it's like I didn't have enough information, and if I had more information, I wouldn't have done it, which like scares me with some things in life. Like now I'm like a relatively tall, skinny Jewish guy, but growing up I was like a very pudgy, short Jewish guy with, I knew I was never going to be in the NBA, right?
Right.
I wanted to be in the NBA. That was like my dream, obviously, but I could realize by the age of 11 or 12, that gets applied to everything in life. Now the NBA is like completely impossible to get into. Obviously we look at that, but film is different because there's multiple films all over the world. And I'm always curious like how many people get dissuaded or get pushed apart because they haven't quite figured that out yet. And with world building, for me, I guess it's just how I approach it. Like, it's more like, I know this sounds weird, but it's like directing by feeling. But one thing that I learned through doing bad shorts, was I have to express my feelings. I have to express my world. Not my feeling like, oh, I'm feeling sad today, but my feelings like, in this scene, we need like a blue, white, and orange color code because this blue is representing the depression she's going through. This white is her pureness that's left. And the red or whatever is the warning for whatever it is. I had to learn how to do that. And for me, it was visual essentially, which is maybe good why I'm a director. In terms of writing, I still am figuring out how to get my writing to the next level, which is also why I've now worked with co-writers the last few stuff, which has made everything so much better because they're able to like interpret that almost to text, if you will.
Well, there are
but know
things
thyself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there are things that me and Nick talk about, or don't, well, if you don't, it shows up big time.
Or don't be aware, I guess. Yeah. Don't be aware. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like there are things, and we've mentioned a few of them that me and Nick say, okay, that's what makes something seem premium. One of them is obviously sound, which we talked about. When sound and score are great, it elevates the film in a quality way that's perceived by the subconscious. So the subconscious mind's like, oh, this is a nice film. Right? Lighting is the second, maybe the first or second thing we notice. Oh, this is well lit. So this is premium. Maybe they shot this with a red. Maybe they shot this with an RE. Then you come to find out just brilliant lighting, and we shot it with a C300. And then I think the third thing that's underrated and gets missed is art direction, set direction, location. To us, that's another character. Mm-hmm. Your location 100%. And your art, that's a whole other character. And if that character isn't moving and swaying and interesting and engaging, then you've missed out on an opportunity to take advantage of maybe something your actor does really, really well that would have played off that location quite well. Right. So it's just something to think about. There's a reason why, all the Mission Impossibles are in foreign countries, because it gives a cool place for Tom Cruise to run full speed. like we need to see him do that.
I agree. I love the last one, by the way. I don't care what anyone says. That last train set piece in the train, the mountain. I mean, it's like, that's so cool to me. I'm like, that's the location, and also
sound is what hurt that movie. So for some reason, the sound mix on it should be blowing your face off. Mm-hmm. And it's not blowing your face off. Like Oppenheimer blows your face off, the sound. Yeah. For whatever reason, the latest MI, the dialogue mix was bad. Like something happened there. Like it was hard to kind of hear them talk. It was, the explosions didn't blow you out of your seat like the last ones, and it took you out of the story a little bit. And because everything is so death defying, like he's like a cat with 9 lives. You need to be totally engulfed in that to feel the danger of it. And that's the only thing. So I guess if you can watch it in Dolby Premiere or IMAX, it'll be better. But if not, it's not going to feel like the other Mission Impossibles to me, Yeah.
I saw it in IMAX, so I have to listen to it again. I don't have 100% hearing from someone I was born with. So sometimes that's like my last thing sometimes that I miss is some of those things. Some of the
E's, right? Yeah.
Some of the E's, but yeah, Oppenheimer, I felt that in my bones. Right. I saw it. That was like, whoa, I'm feeling this. Except for when it went off, obviously. So, which was brilliant.
Yeah. You just ruined it for Nick.
Oh, I don't think Nick has seen it. He didn't ruin anything for me. It's hard to spoil a movie for me, man. I get immersed regardless.
Are you going to go watch it in theater, Nick? Are you going to go watch it before it leaves theaters?
Yeah, I will. I just
wanted
to tell you.
Just go watch it alone.
So
alone.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit by myself. But as far as movies in the theater, again, this is something that we had to bring back from a previous episode. So my wife and my daughter and my sister-in-law went to see Barbie. Finally, they went to the movie. The AC wasn't working in the theater, so they ended up leaving. They got free tickets to come back, and this, that, and the other. They went to see it, and they came home, and I was like, they did the whole Barbie thing, right? They had the Barbie shoes, they had the Barbie shirt. They were the whole thing was there, and they came back, and they're like, what was that movie? Like that? No, what was that? Like, what was that even about? Oh man, they were not. None of them really liked it. My daughter was like, I almost fell asleep, Dad. I was like,
wow.
What? Yeah, none of them liked it. So it was.
I'm shocked
super
because
super
that
surprising.
movie That movie is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
None of them liked it, man. They were ready. They were prepared.
Ryan Gosling is hilarious.
Yeah,
He's a great actor.
Something missed him, man. Something missed him. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, probably the frustration having to go do it again.
Nah, man, they were super hyped up, but they were just, I don't know what was going on. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because you mentioned, the Oppenheimer, obviously, and the Barbenheimer situation that was going on. So, yeah, I just had to bring
Also, part of it is hype. I went to this high school with two great artists. One is an actor in my town named Muweba Mustafa. I believe that's his name. And there's another guy named Darcy. And Darcy was unbelievable. Like he was like a great piano player, had been playing in his church since he was a child, Todd. And he could sing Stevie Wonder. And we had the big talent show. All the artist kids loved the talent show. And we knew Darcy was going to blow our hair off, right? Like we just knew he was going to kill it because he kills it. That's what he does. That's who Darcy is. But we didn't know anything about Muweba. So when he came up and sang really well, the surprise of it, he won the show because we knew Darcy was going to sing Stevie Wonder. We knew it was going to sound great, but the surprise element. So I think also part of it, Nick, could be, look, if you go watch a movie on opening weekend, there's nobody to ruin it for you. You don't hear the pomp and circumstance that isn't everywhere yet. And if you have to wait till the end of the cycle, you're already been overhyped up. Now it's supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. And you go there and it's like, it's just sliced bread. It's the thing before sliced bread. It's not as good as we thought. So anyway, I would love to talk to them offline about this situation later.
This experience. Because we do got to get back to Todd because now we have to get to this place where we're transitioning from the short into the feature, because you said that you did leverage some of the success that you had, with your short to get the feature. So let's just talk about what happened there.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking it's like why LeBron doesn't win the MVP every year theory, with what you just said. Yeah. So once the short started getting out there, and it's a short, it's not like it was like famous or all over the place or anything like that, but I had a couple people interested in what I was doing next who had saw it. A lot of it actually came from Jessica Brosick, who is the lead actress in Modulation Nowhere. She was working on a movie in Berlin, and a couple producers had saw it who she had showed it to. And I had a bunch of long conversations, and they were like, what's your plan? Have you thought about making a feature? And at the time I had written like 3 scripts. I was working on 3 feature scripts that just did not work. Just, days on end, working on sleepless nights, bringing on someone else that you just could not pull it off. I tried to turn Modulation Nowhere into a feature, all that. And I had a long conversation with him, and I had this idea brewing in my head that became Hidden Exposure. And I essentially told him, I was like, yeah, just give me like a little bit. I had this idea. And I built like a pretty long relationship with this guy who had access to some financiers. His people ended up not financing the movie. They actually left before I even got there, not because of the script or anything like that, because they had some their own financial stuff that flipped it around. Very nice guy though. And in fact, again, you're talking about going back to the luck or people helping you because you're around. He actually taught me how feature film financing works. And he ended up not being the one, but because of him, I got there and I started working on Left with Only Rain for that. So I started working on Left with Only Rain like summer 2019, I think. The original outline was called Knife Revenge Story. And the idea was somebody chases after somebody who did them wrong, who left New York. And when they get there, going back to a little bit what I said earlier, I love people put in situations where they necessarily don't always make the right decisions like we want our movies to do. Yeah. And she gets there and doesn't actually have a plan. It's like your basketball alter ego gets an alley-oop, but you freeze and you can't dunk, even though that's all you've dreamed about doing. And that was the general premise. And then the other idea was I wanted to follow the circle, the cycle of abuse. I wanted to take a character through that in a movie. I got obsessed with that. So the pieces started coming into play, and then I started building the Alvy character. For her, I wanted somebody who like really meant to do well, but at the same time, if you're in New York, Hudson Valley, Catskills area, it's one of the most beautiful places in the country that's very underrated.
I've been to the Catskills.
But there's a lot of, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who build, the prices are going. I'm not from there. I've never lived there, so I'm not one to really speak on it. But the prices are going up because people are going in and like building it up like crazy with money. People are like building actual towns. And I actually based her character off a story I read about somebody who was building a town from scratch, a really wealthy person, and was like upping the real estate there. And I thought it'd be interesting if she is and Alvi means good friend. We're talking about names, right? Alvina, it's short for Alvina, and it means good friend. And she's someone who's desperate for a friend, desperate for freedom from her father, but also needs him so badly, and is trying to find herself, right? So I just started building these characters, and then Ramsey came in essentially as like a full-on id, a full-on somebody who is completely dealing with failure his entire life and how that reacts to him. And the Sabina character, back to her name, I really like her name because it's like a name that's like a dissonant chord. It's not a major or a minor. It like doesn't quite finish. You're missing the R. It's a so it kind of and I felt like that is part of her cycle, and that essentially was where I started from. Now going back, I wrote 3 features before that did not work. I wrote a bunch of shorts. Modulation Or was the only one that was all right, and I think a lot of that got boosted in the edit thanks to Hernan Bornos. And Love of the Rain, for everyone out there thinking that they wrote one bad draft and their movie career is over, I wrote 72 drafts of Left with Only Rain over a 2-year period by myself. I got told by everyone. I can look at, I'm very OCD with my organization. So I have folders from every single draft and all the coverage on all them, everything. I do that with everything. All the Pinterest photos too. And I can look at the coverage, and I started noticing like 10 drafts in, people were like, there's something here that's good. So at the same time, I'm telling this guy who wanted to finance it that I'm almost ready to write this while I'm figuring out how to actually write a feature that's good. And then slowly but surely, I started building the world and the story. I started doing all the visuals before I even finished the script, the storyboarding, mood boards, back to the Modulation Nowhere times 100 because it's a feature. I storyboarded it myself. I paid a bunch of people on Fiverr. I would like make collages on Photoshop. So I would take photos like, I need a woman by a mailbox. So you collage that together and then send it to someone on Fiverr, and they would bring it back to you, and then I would color it in. I started just building that world. I got to a point where it was a finalist at Austin Film Festival, and it went to a couple actors. I got it to a couple actors who were super nice, but the response I was getting was like, you know how to tell a story, you know how to build a world, but you don't know how to write the tendons, the meat of a story, the nuances of a character. What does a character eat? What does a character, how does he talk to their dad, essentially? And that's the stuff that I still am working on as a screenwriter.
Wait.
So I was able to...
you were expecting to see that come out, or other people were expecting to see that come out of the script itself?
Some of the actors were. They were saying that the characters' stuff was thin, if you will. This is before it got there. Yeah, interesting, right? And that's another thing you're wondering is like, you go online, there's like a million different rules on screenplays, and it's
exactly. And it seems, and that seems to break all the rules for what you're supposed to have in a screenplay. Where did they expect to see that in the screenplay?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you add it?
Well,
did you do all that stuff?
You're probably doing it in the dialogue, and you're probably setting it up in the action text, right? Like, so I mentioned going to the Catskills. Well, the person I was up there with was driving me. And it was in the winter. It was in February. Snow everywhere. The roads were hectic. So just imagine that as action text. So now I'm in the action text telling you it's February in the Catskills. Ice is everywhere. And our character is speeding in a Mercedes. So all of a sudden, I've kind of given the character a background already. The character's on the phone and he's cursing. One hand on the wheel in the Catskills, February, ice, on the phone with the other hand, cursing. So this is without any, only the dialogue of the cursing that might play there. That would be the only thing you would need to let an actor know, okay, here's the kind of person I'm dealing with. This kind of person that then you find out, okay, he's cursing at his mother.
Yep.
So now here's the person, he cusses his mom out like it's a girlfriend. He drives a Mercedes and he's reckless in the Catskills. And I think that's kind of what you're looking for in those nuances.
Let me ask you a question.
Exactly.
And Todd, let me ask this, both of you, basically, which is, so you can read a lot of stuff online, right? Like you just mentioned, Todd, right? There's all this stuff.
Got to be careful.
Basic stuff. The question I have is, you'll see a lot of the rules that say, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, but they'll say, keep it simple, stupid. Don't put all that other stuff in there. We don't want to do that. That might happen on set, right? Where you're talking about more of that stuff. But this is a lot of the stuff that's out there that's teaching you the basics and keeping you to, telling you to, are they expecting something different? Right. And is that maybe what you learned, is that some of that stuff that you see on Keep It Simple, Stupid, is that a lie? Right. So if you're dealing with some more seasoned actors and seasoned teams, it makes it easier for the engine to get it if it's simple, right? If it's basic, if it's templatized. But if you're giving it to a human, they're expecting action text. They're expecting context. They're expecting all of these things that line where it says keep it simple and keep it to this framework. Maybe that's just for the engine, right? If you put your script into an engine who understands this business and how this thing really works at a higher level, maybe 80% of indie filmmakers aren't doing because they've been taught something else. It just brings up something really interesting.
No, I fully agree with you. And I still don't know the answer. I'm prepping my second and third film, and I still don't know. I think some of it's funny because it's some of it is it's a good basics, right? You can learn how to shoot a jump shot, but it doesn't mean you're going to make it if you have correct form, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of that where you have to learn off that. And those books and those things help, because if you don't know anything about screenwriting, it's there. But there's definitely a place where you have to take it your own, make it your own, build your own world. And
Todd, let me just jump in here, because for the edification of the audience, I'll just reach down here. For me, this is the one. This is the best book you can get on screenwriting. It's called The Screenwriter's Bible. David Trottier, he's the GOAT when it comes to not the GOAT as a screenwriter, but he's the GOAT as a communicator for the world of screenwriting. So sorry to interject. I just wanted, since we're on the subject, people want to know what to read. To me, to Nick's point, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. There's been 100 books written about this stuff. I think this one called The Screenwriter's Bible is all you need. And it really covers everything that you need to know about sort of the formatting and how to write it. The rest of it is kind of up to you, because to me, Todd, and you just tell me how you did it on Hidden Exposure. The stuff that Nick's talking about, that should come out at the table read, because you can't do it on set.
Yeah, and I fully agree. How we did it was I ended up having additional writers come in because I got the 72 drafts and I was like, I'm getting good response. I got an Austin Film Festival finalist on my own. Again, it's okay, so I can sacrifice I don't necessarily need to be the only writer on everything, right? And I just learned through coverage what people wanted from every character. A lot of it was in their arcs. Alvy, for instance, is a character that was very built out of coverage. In the original early, probably first 20, 25 drafts, she wasn't even related to Richard Kine's character, Abbott. And that came through notes. That was notes from somebody. I don't even remember who gave me that note. So a lot of it was through that. So again, it's totally backwards process. You can only send your friends so many versions of your script before they hate you. And so you end up just paying for it on Fiverr. I honestly Fiverr was helped me through a lot of that. Yeah. And that was my process.
I heard a lot of people say that. Have you, Nick? Like Fiverr being your ultimate resource for all things sort of film pre-pro? That's interesting. And I guess the upside of Fiverr is that you can negotiate price with a bunch of different people and then make your choice.
With Love Is Only Rain, Hidden Exposure, Love Is Only Rain, I found 2 or 3 people that gave good notes, and then they got invested in it themselves. So they would write me I'll give you a discount if I can read a couple of drafts. I'm wondering where it is. And you kind of build.
That's wild.
Yeah, and then it's cool. And what I did with that was I got to the point where I was I want to attract a name. I want to attract a name to this, because then I know I can reach out to a bunch of people and get this funded, or at least hope to. And 2 people, Amali Jeffers, who did a great job. He came in for a couple of weeks and helped me reorganize stuff from a scholastic point of view, I would say. And then Frederick Richter, who I'm co-writing who co-wrote my next movie with, who's a master's from AFI in screenwriting. He's worked on huge stuff. Just an amazing guy who has taught me so much about screenwriting the last few years since there. And they just came in and just upped the dialogue. I was really suffering with my dialogue, upped so much of it and just gave it this roundness. And then it got in the hands of Rumer Willis, and she liked it and then emailed me that she was interested in.
Come on, man.
being
No,
Alfie.
we're not gonna play that game. Man, it just got in the hands of Rumer Willis. I mean,
Now, Rumer Willis, for those who don't know, is the daughter of Demi Moore and Bruce Willis. So
Yes.
how did Rumer,
so
how did Rumer
it
find
got
this
to
thing?
her agent. We sent it to her agent. And again, everything in IMDb Pro, you can reach out to people, and
Yep.
if you know you can have a little bit of money, if you know you have like a decent script, you can pitch it to them. And we sent so many people, said no, didn't reply. Again, back to that, like trying to just accept that denial. And she read it, and they wrote us back that she liked it, and that same agency, Innovative, everyone they casted the movie essentially.
Wow.
And then
So you didn't have to hire
Richard-
a casting director? Because
No,
they basically,
no. And
wow.
yeah,
That's so cool.
And Richard, it was amazing. And I mean, it's a very low budget.
What was your pre-pro budget versus the budget you actually spent?
I'm not allowed to say the final
Right.
budget,
Yep.
but I will say it's
Fair enough.
well under $1 million. It's well under 700. I'll
Right.
say
Okay,
that.
got it. Perfect. Indie film. Yep.
Yeah, I saw someone wrote on Letterboxd, they were like kind of liking the film, kind of not, and they said it was like a big budget something. Like big budget something. What are you talking about?
I love when they get it completely wrong. It
That's
makes
right.
me
the
feel
thing
so
they
good.
referenced was like 10 times our budget. I was like, yeah. And then, I met with Liana after she read it, who was just amazing. And then Jordan and Richard chatted with him. He called me up on my phone one day, and I got a call from Richard Kind. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Dude.
And he lives pretty close to me. So I see him a lot. He's an amazing guy. And he's been a little bit like giving me advice and stuff on a lot of stuff. But it was really crazy how it fell in the line. And I was prepared with the vibes, I guess you can say, like the mood boards, all the footage.
Once we
And-
read Richard Kahn, we were in. We were like, okay.
Yeah, it was. I still can't believe he did it. He stayed for for all the other actors' sides.
Right.
He was couldn't have been more gracious and nicer and like just super respectful towards me. I'm first time feature director. He didn't have to be nice to me, and was just so. I mean, he still is such a pleasant guy, and I got very.
Could you
lucky
imagine
with
being mean
with
if your
my-
last name is Kind?
Right.
Yeah, I know,
A
right?
walking
And you never know in
contradiction.
this industry.
This is like the theme
Hey,
of this
hey,
whole
Chris,
conversation
Chris.
is the power of a name.
I know, but I have to do this though, right?
Your name is Dick Kind.
There you go.
So you kind of have both.
That's what I was
kind of
going to
an-
say. I was like,
Kind of an ass, and then you're kind of. Oh, did I steal your thunder there,
you
Nick?
stole it, but that's what I was going to say. I was like, he could go both ways. You never
You
know.
could go either way.
Exactly.
Well, wait a second.
No, we're not going to go there, bro. So, but that's
we don't
awesome.
know anything about that.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Richard.
exactly. But it's awesome because, like Chris said, like we saw Richard Kind, and we're like, dude, we're all in because he is an everything actor, man. Like he is a chameleon. He can do whatever he wants to do, and it will be phenomenal. So,
And he'll come in totally
congratulations.
prepared. Yeah, and he's an amazing dramatic actor. It's something that people I don't think understand. He is an amazing dramatic actor. That scene, there's a scene with him and Rumer towards the end of the film that is like to me, it's like a very like father daughter. I mean, I have a sister. I don't have any kids. I have nieces, but it's like a very much like a father child scene that sums up a lot of things in life, and that scene still gets me to this day. I mean, their performances are so good in that scene. There was a lot of improv on it towards the end, and he just killed it. Him and Rumer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait for people to see it and check it out and get that feedback. Right now, I think it has like a 5.6 rating on IMDb, but I think people listening to this, go watch it, go rate it 10 stars, 9 stars, and do what you feel, be authentic. But I think a lot of times on IMDb, those ratings are a little bit false because they have basically employed reviewers. Mm-hmm. And when they review a film, those reviews are weighted heavier than a user review. And so in a way, what IMDb and I guess by proxy Amazon is saying is we trust our people and our people get 2 votes and your people get 1 vote. Well, I think that's kind of crap because if you're a filmmaker, the people who are watching your movie are first off are likely and care to review are likely film people as well. Now, look, are you going to get some people in there that are just going to rate it 10 because they like you and they love you and they're part of the film? Sure. But I would say that's okay because as the film goes through its run, you're going to get those people that you mentioned before, Todd, on Letterboxd that are going to rate it 2 stars or 3 stars as if any film effort could be 1, 2, or 3 stars. I never rate any film that low because I know how hard it is just to make a feature film. Like you get 4 stars just for completion, just the fact that you completed the thing. So I can't wait for everybody to see it and check it out. I am curious why you landed on Tubi as a distribution partner.
Yeah.
And I know Nick is too. I know he wanted to ask that. I told you thunder twice.
And you see that sometimes on Letterboxd, people are like, this isn't really a Tubi movie, or like, this is like an interesting movie for Tubi. They've been a great partner. So once we finished the movie about a year ago, the post and everything, I was lucky enough to make contact with Priscilla Smith at The Coven, a sales agency. And they did like Terrifier 2, a bunch of stuff. One of the nicest, most trustworthy people you can meet, which is, everyone likes to complain. I hear all these horror stories about sales agents, and I'm always like, really? That happened to you? My sales agent's awesome. Her and Kendall at The Coven. And we were at Berlinale EFM earlier this year, and they made a good, so this is one thing where Tubi is coming into play for indie filmmakers. They made a really good offer for us that essentially was paying back the budget, and we have, again, it's like, this is an indie film. This was essentially funded by a bunch of people you have to hedge together who are doing it to hopefully break even one day. Because I was able to attach, or we were able to attach some names to the script, and people found the content interesting enough. This is not, again, when people are giving you the 2 stars, it's like, I think sometimes they forget that. They assume that like Warner Brothers made this. Yeah. So it's like, what are we up against? But that's all right. I'll take it. I can take it. But yeah, so they made her an offer, and from the business perspective, and again, you have to go into the business mode, it's not my money. I didn't fund it with my own money too. So those decisions come into play, and I'm happy with it because people were made whole. And it got out to a lot of people. I feel like there could have been situations where it could have gone somewhere and not that many people saw it. Right. It's like Tubi has 74 million subs. I feel like the movie, I've seen the movie a couple times, like on the big screen in the theater, and there's the cinematography by Barbie Long is just so beautiful. I'm really proud of it. And I think if you get a chance to see it on a projector or a big screen, or can project it, it's really worth it. But that's what happened with Tubi, and it's been great. And it's gotten the movie out there to a lot more people than I was thinking was going to probably happen.
That's fantastic.
And they've been good partners. And we have a bunch of stuff going on in Europe that will be announced soon, in Germany and some other countries, which I'm very excited about as well.
Oh,
yeah, that was a Tubi thing. And
all through Tubi.
All through Tubi. Okay.
So Nick, any last questions for Todd before we wrap this thing up? This has just been an amazing conversation, by the way, Todd. I really appreciate how forthright you've been with all your answers and just getting into the weeds with us. That's what we love to do. So I really appreciate it. I know I told you guys this off air, but I just on behalf of your listeners too, I know, thank you guys for this podcast, because I've learned a ton from many episodes, and I think it's very important for the industry and for everyone trying to make any kind of film. That's huge. That's awesome. Huge. So that means the world coming from you. Nick, any question to bring us home with?
Yeah, I got just the last thing, which is you had some great folks, as we mentioned, some casts, in your film. And, we actually have a film that we did, a couple of years back that, starred Kate Upton. And I think it's actually her last feature film that she did, right? And one of the exciting things for us about her being in our film was the fact that, we had basically at the time what you would call an A-list star in our film. She had been a star in so many different ways, and she had a great platform that we could leverage in order to promote the film. Sadly, she didn't promote the film. And the reason she didn't promote the film wasn't because she didn't like the film or she didn't like her part. It was at the time that the film was being released, she was actually kind of switching her brand. Right. So her brand kind of went away from what many people at the time knew her for, and was kind of shifting into 2 things. It's like a whole fitness thing that she was doing, as well as being a mom. Like, it was just kind of like, I am revamping everything. And this film that we did wasn't necessarily on that brand. So we totally get it. Right. We understand it. We have no, bad feelings or anything, but we lost that. Right. So I'm just kind of curious with you, like, is that something that you're seeking, that you're expecting, that you're hoping for from your cast, is that they'll tell other people about it, that they'll use their platforms, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, X, whatever it is, to kind of promote your film and get the word out there?
Yeah. I mean, part of, one of the things that like people like with a name brings is a big Instagram following. So that is something that you hope and expect, but it's like, it's such a weird world because you can't like, I text with everyone in the movie. I'm friends with everyone, but you would feel a little, I'm not the kind of guy that's like, can you please post this? With ours, we're in a funny situation because the strike happened right after the movie came out in the US. Yeah. So there's really, they actually can't. I have a friend who's an actor on Winning Time, and he can't post anything. Wow. Yeah. And I feel like, always contracts, but what are you going to do with contracts really sometimes? You do expect that, and you do help. It helps. Their name helps by itself. I think it helps more than people realize, and a post helps. But I also think that like we have some fan accounts that are allowed to post. There's like some fan accounts, especially for like Liana, who has some ravenous fans all over the world that are posting about it all the time. There's like some discussions about the film, but yeah, you hope that you hope that, and if they don't, or if maybe it's not talked about as much amongst the crew, as a director, as a person who wrote and directed and raised the finance for it, you feel a little like maybe I let people down. And you can look at the movie, and I know where stuff, if I could redo it, I would redo this, whatever. We shot this in 15 days. There's no excuse, but I know it's a good movie. I know my next movie is going to be a great movie. I know the movie after that's going to be even better. So it's like, how much do you expect them to support that level of your talent? I don't know. I'm sensitive, so I always feel like maybe it's something I did or something about the movie. And at the same time, I know that it probably isn't that, like you just said with the Kate Upton thing, like It has something to do with almost always like their agency, their direction on something,
people
like
in their ear, exactly. All kinds of stuff. And if we had to do it again, Todd and Nick, I feel like when we were getting reaction shots from Kate, we would have just like shot a mini ad right then and there, like just have her do some things within the reaction time that we could chop up and give to our editor to create sort of little marketing pieces. Because I think the whole thing is how do we hit the easy button on this? Because even in another one of our films, we had a star with a giant following named CJ Perry. And, she did promote it and did some things, but it would have been great to have her do more sort of video-based marketing pieces. And that would have been easy to do while the cameras were already rolling and the super talented people were already in the room, and capturing that versus trying to put together a scratch team to film her do or say something or have her film something on her iPhone or whatever. Like, I think that's a decent idea, Nick, that maybe if we get another opportunity, we should say, okay, obviously sign the contract. We always say that. But to your point, Todd, like actors are like one group of people that you can fight them on a contract about non-monetary stuff, but you do it at your own freaking peril, man.
Yeah, so and he wouldn't do that. Relationships first, that's the key. But I would say
if it's money, then you kind of have to. But if it's not,
then Chris, I was going to say that's the key there, is because in today's world, marketing is just exposure, right? Yeah. Right. So when you have them right on set, is the perfect time to get that marketing material. It's just content, right? It's just them talking to you. It's about product pictures exposure of them. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't even have to be an ad, right? It doesn't have to be. It just has to be content that's releasable in association with the film. So if you can get that while they're with you, that's the best time to do it, as opposed to saying, hey, guess what? Now you're uber famous because you did this other thing after my thing. Hey, would you post my thing? No. You have all the content that you made while they were with you that is now releasable and you can put out there on your own, that wouldn't be impacted by, as Chris said, the people talking in their ear, right? Or their agent or whatever. You own that content and you can release it. So I think that's one of the lessons for us, is that the more that content you can get while they're a captive audience, the better you're going to be in your sales and marketing.
Yeah. I think that's amazing advice. I wish I had that advice on all my films, because I do regret not getting a ton of content on set, having someone go and like interviewing them or explaining what they're doing in this scene even and stuff like that. It's weird because on set you don't think about it. You're just when you're directing too, you have so much going on. It's like a ton going on. We shot it in 15 days too, so it was like insanity. I mean, in a good way, but and I agree. I think that's totally correct. I know in one of your guys' earlier podcasts, you've talked a lot about marketing in pre-pro, starting your marketing plan in pre-pro.
Exactly.
And I think that is very important. working on my second film, Heavy Ashes. We haven't started shooting yet because of the strike and everything. I have a marketing plan in my head now. I have like how we're going to run set. I brought on Frederick Richter to co-write the script with me from the beginning. So I know it's like the best thing I've ever done. And that's a lot of it stuff. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, man, if I knew then what I knew now, but that's also why you make your first film. That's why you make your shorts. Yep. That's why you make your first feature.
Yeah.
And it's failing, or not failing, because it's not a failure of a film. It's making mistakes in front of the world who you don't know, who have a right to, criticize you. And that's part of the business we're in. And we accept that factor when we upload that video. That's what I kind of find interesting about it too. I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, I know my next film is going to be all the people who have problems with the first film. I respect that. I like it, because wait till my next film, because I'm learning from that too. And I'm taking that into that. And one of those things is the marketing aspect of it,
Awesome.
That's tremendous, man. And look, it could have been a lot worse. This film was not a failure in any way whatsoever. You got an incredible cast.
Very proud of it.
You got distribution. You paid your investors back. I always go back to what Denzel Burke said of, Burke Management. It's like the number one thing you got to do as a director and a filmmaker is pay your investors back. You got to hustle for that. And if you do that, they'll always roll with you, because it's kind of like the reason billionaires want to own sports teams. Like, there's a bunch of billionaires, but you can be an anonymous billionaire and then you're just sitting there with your money. And what is that? And it's like, no, if I own a sports team, I'm in this small fraternity. All these other people had to vote me in. And now I'm sort of doing something with the money. And I think film financiers and high net worth individuals feel the same way. They're like, yeah, I'm rich, but it's boring here. Like, I've drove every car. I've had every type of Chilean sea bass. Like, let me make a movie and let me be part of something bigger than myself, as long as I don't take a bath doing it financially. And so I think that's super huge. Todd, we have to do a round 2. We have to get you back on.
Yep.
Because this is too short.
This is awesome.
So with that, Todd, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, find you on the internet, and maybe see some or all of your work?
Yeah, for sure. I have like a personal Instagram account. It's private, but you can write me on it and we can be friends. It's just my name, at Todd Bogin. I don't post that much exciting stuff. I have a cat that I love, and I post a lot of her. So if you want to look at that. And then at Water Voices Productions, which is my little production company. That was one of the production companies on every one of my movies. You can follow that. Write me on that. I need to start posting more on that. watervoicesproductions.com or myname.com goes there. And just write that email on there. My email's on there. hello@watervoices. We'll write you back. In the US and Canada, Hidden Exposure is on Tubi right now. We're coming out in Germany, CIS, and a bunch of other countries. But I don't have the specifics yet, but it's coming out this year in the next few months. Email me if you want, or pay attention to the website.
Cool. Perfect. And like I mentioned before, you can watch his incredible short Modulation Nowhere on Mubi and then on Shorts TV as well. And if you are interested in more podcast goodness, more indie film knowledge, you can also subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcast or on Spotify. But we'd really, really love you if you meet us at our new distribution point as of this year, YouTube. So go to YouTube, subscribe to that YouTube page, watch some videos, fall asleep to the warm, soothing sound of Nick's voice. Why not? Just let the videos play on automatic while he lulls you to sleep with his deep chocolate. And and speaking of Nick, if you want to reach out to him, you can just email him. He's at nick@bonsai.film. He will get back to you. No question about it. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Flame in Your Heart. Your is you are. So Flame in Your Heart, or just search for Chris Barkley and I will come right up. If you want to reach out to all of us as a company, we're at _Bonsai Creative, or now you can find us at _Make It Podcast on all social, and we will answer 100% of those queries. I guarantee you that. Last but not least, if you want to take a big step in your filmmaking career, go to www.bonsai.film, where you can learn more about our marketing and branding services, as well as our bi-weekly newsletter, which is incredible. That's at bonsai.film/subscribe. And it is not one of these aggregated doo-doo cream newsletters where we just take a bunch of stories from IndieWire and Hollywood Reporter and jam them together and serve them back up to you like they're a new meal. No, we don't do that. We find the esoteric, we find the interesting tools, software, opportunities, discounts, festivals, you name it, it's in the newsletter. So make sure you do that at bonsai.film/subscribe. It's not spam, it's free, and you will love it. It comes out every 2 weeks. And with that, Nick, can you leave us with the credo?
Yeah, man, that was a mouthful.
Yes,
Todd was over there writing it all down. It's like, dang, and he's sweating. You need to get a cup of water, some whiskey or something. Man, what's going? But before I give the credo, I need to mention something because we were in a conversation earlier and the people that we were talking to didn't realize what that is on my wall back there. So I just got to make sure that people understand that what that is. Those are Legos, people. In some of these conversations that we've had, I've had to tell people I'm a big Lego aficionado, right? I do Legos. I'm a grown man and I love Legos. It is what it is. But all this stuff is Legos back here. And, like they have on social, they'd be like, no filter, no set, right? These are not sets. They don't come with instructions. This is just some fun stuff that I do to make myself and the kids happy. So I just want to let y'all know those are Legos. Anyway, with that said, to my filmmaking friends, our family, our fans out there, be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Todd, I'll talk to you soon. Nick, I'll talk to you soon as well. Guys, be good, all right?
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Todd, thank you, brother. We appreciate you, man.
Todd, you're awesome. Yep. Appreciate you guys.
You guys are awesome.
Be good. Bye.